If you're a woman over 40 years old, you probably notice it feels really freaking hard to lose weight, but it's not your fault. This is most often just a hormonal imbalance that you can fix naturally so you can melt that stubborn belly fat. I'm Abram, a professional nutritionist that helps women lose weight the easy way, and I'm gonna walk through the exact system that I walk through step by step for my client Sarah to help her lose over 40 pounds of body fat. So Sarah is a mom of 3. She's 46 years old. She's tried counting calories. She did do the keto diet. It worked for a little bit, but it didn't lead to long-term results. So the process that I'm about to walk through is what worked for her, so you can do the same in 2026 so you can lose that body fat. Let's dive in. The very first thing we did is figure out what would work for her long term, because there's no point in losing weight if you just gain the weight back again. So that means step 1 is that we had to stop using willpower. If it requires willpower to lose the weight, it's gonna require willpower to keep that weight off. That means there was no counting calories, no tracking her protein, no doing any super freaking hard workouts. No, none of that. Because none of that was anything that was easy for her. And remember, if it's easy to lose the weight, it's easy to maintain that weight loss. If you're using willpower to lose the weight, it means you're gonna use willpower to keep that weight off. So it made no sense. So all of that was out the window. Every single change we had to make had to last for the rest of her life. And that brings me to number 2, which was to figure out what was that one thing that if improved would improve everything else. This is called your lead domino. If you were to improve one aspect of your health and fitness, it would improve everything else. So after doing an interview with Sarah, I found out it was hormonal stress. If a woman has too much hormonal stress, you will not be able to lose weight even in a calorie deficit. So after we identified it was hormonal stress, and that brings me to step number 3, which is we had to have Sarah collect her data for data-driven decisions. If you are collecting data, you can guarantee your success, but only if you're looking at your data specifically. I have worked over 6,000 women throughout the years, and I have never seen 2 women with the exact same solution. You have to collect your data for your data-driven decisions. So what we looked at is 1, how do you feel right after eating? If you are getting tired after your meals, that's a sign of inflammation. 2, we looked at how hungry do you feel immediately after your meals. She is someone that suffers from binge eating, so what we noticed, there were 2 main things that we had to fix after collecting the data. 1, Sarah had a crap load of inflammation, and 2, Sarah has insulin resistance. Both of those things make it feel really freaking hard to lose weight, because inflammation in the form of cellular fire has no calories. That's where you get that big bloated cortisol belly, and that is what's causing her to gain weight in her midsection. 2, if you have insulin resistance, this leads you to gaining something called toxic visceral fat. This is fat that wraps around your liver and your pancreas, but more importantly, it leads to high amounts of insulin being released. If you're releasing a crap load of insulin, you are gonna store a crap load of body fat. Plus, your cravings are through the freaking roof. So we needed to fix those, and this is how we did it. To lower the inflammation, we had to get her cortisol under control. We had to get at least 10,000 lux of light in. We had to have her eat more insoluble fiber. Then, to get her insulin balanced, we had to have her drink mineral water plus soluble fiber and then activate the muscle pump. When she was combining all of these, what it would do is actually fix the root cause for why she was gaining so much weight, primarily in her midsection. When women have too much cortisol, that has been shown to be both anabolic to fat and catabolic to muscle, meaning you literally get weaker and fatter at the same time if your cortisol is out of control. Like, you can literally go to the gym and do super hard workouts, but you're not gonna lose any weight at all. Like, you can even work with a personal trainer and you won't lose an ounce. Like, you might lose a little bit of weight in the beginning, but then your weight is just stuck until you lower that cortisol. And I'll get into how to do that in a little bit. Next, we had to make sure she got enough light in the morning. If you are not getting the light in, what ends up happening is your body has too much inflammation and you can't have high quality sleep. You specifically want to get at least 10,000 lux. That is just a unit of measurement for light. You can buy these lights at home, but the best way to get it is from the sun. Then for inflammation, finally, we wanted to make sure that she had more insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber is going to cause a whooshing effect inside of your digestive tract. That means it can help her poop more regularly. If you're a woman that is not having regular bowel movements, as in you go to the bathroom and you feel like everything actually comes out, like there's nothing left, you know what I'm talking about, like you poop, but then it's like, I feel like there's still something left. That's a sign you don't have enough insoluble fiber in your diet. If you were to add more of this, that is going to help clean out your digestive tract so nothing gets stuck. And more importantly, you also pull that inflammation out of your body. Then to get the insulin under control, we had to make sure she was drinking mineral water with soluble fiber. By combining these, this creates something called anti-obesity effects for women. That means that the more of it you have, the more body fat you lose. How cool is that? Plus, this was really easy to implement because this is how you start losing weight without counting calories. And then the final step was to increase your insulin sensitivity. And how do we do that? By activating something called the muscle pump. This is actually a muscle inside your calf muscles. And what it's gonna do is it's going to increase the blood flow and circulation. It's gonna get the good stuff in and pull the bad stuff out. But more importantly, it is going to deplete your muscles of something called muscle glycogen. That is sugar in your muscle, and if you can get rid of the sugar in your muscle, when you eat sugar, it's stored in your muscle versus stored as body fat. So we needed to have her activate that muscle pump. How do we do that? That brings me to step number 4. We're bringing it all together so she can melt that body fat really freaking easy. Step 4 was to have her follow an anti-inflammatory protocol. But remember, we wanted to use her data for her data-driven decisions. And remember, there's no point in losing weight if it's hard. So this needed to be really freaking easy. The very first thing we did was get her cortisol under control. How do we do that? We had her drink her coffee immediately after her walk in the morning. I know this sounds backwards, but the strategic use of stimulants is the #1 way to get your cortisol under control. You might have heard that if you have coffee, it's not good for cortisol. That's only true if you're having it at random times. By always having it immediately after the walk, she actually had more energy after the walk with 0 crash, but more importantly, her body knew when to start metabolizing that cortisol, and that worked phenomenally for her. The next thing we did is we had her eat her lunch outside. You have to get that vitamin D from the sun, that at least 10,000 lux of light, in order to start reducing inflammation. If you do not have vitamin D, you're not gonna be able to get rid of inflammation. It doesn't matter what you do. Super easy fix. She literally just had to sit outside while she's eating her lunch. Step number 3 was to have her replace 1 meal a day with a cabbage soup with a pepper. The reason why this worked really well, you might have seen this, they used to have a cabbage soup diet back in the day. I actually have an even more effective one that helps balance women's hormones naturally. If you actually want this recipe, just go to my Instagram and send me a direct message saying soup, and I'll send the recipe your way. But the key is that she was replacing 1 meal a day with this. And the more she ate, the more body fat she lost. So if she wanted to lose more weight, if we ever wanted to speed up the weight loss, all we had to do is make this meal bigger because it made it physically hard to eat more later in the day. This was essentially a 0-calorie meal that's nutrient dense and balanced her hormones naturally. Plus, it's freaking delicious. Step 4 was to add that mineral water plus that soluble fiber so we can help slow the absorption of sugar, but more importantly, it can help get that insulin and blood sugar under control. So we had her drink a bottle of Evian water, 330 milligrams specifically, it's like the little bottle of it. Drinks that, and then immediately after drinking that, she would eat green beans plus pink Himalayan salt with black pepper and turmeric. This is freaking delicious. And what you do is, since she's replacing part of her meal with this mineral water and this green beans are actually a whole fruit, plus these salts, what she was doing is she was slowing the absorption of sugar for the rest of her meal. Just by simply adding this to the beginning of her meal, it's slowed the release of insulin. If you can slowly release insulin, then you feel much more full on fewer calories, but more importantly, that is what creates anti-inflammatory, and it helps to get rid of insulin resistance naturally. Why? Because it helps you melt body fat. And the 5th thing we had her do to get rid of that inflammation and get her hormones balanced was to start using a rebounder for at least 20 minutes every single day. But the key was that she had to stay off of her heels as she was jumping. If you are using a rebounder, what you don't want to do is land directly on your heels. It is much more effective specifically for getting rid of inflammation and lowering your insulin if you can kind of jump up and down like you're tiptoeing. This is what you want it to look like. So notice that I am staying off of my heels. That is what's going to activate that muscle pump inside of my calf muscle. If you are using a rebounder, that is the only way that I recommend you use it. Plus, it is much easier on your ankles, knees, and hips, so we don't want to cause any joint problems, and we want to maximize the results. When Sarah put all of this together, she was able to lose over 40 pounds of body fat without counting calories and no taking supplements, all because she balanced her hormones naturally and got rid of that inflammation. I am actually doing a free live training that's gonna walk through in depth how women can do this whole process yourself in 2026. It's 100% free. You can register right now. If you go to the link in the description, you'll see the training there, or just message me on Instagram goals and I'll send you the link. That's it for this video. Love you all. Thanks for watching.